I mean, we can be switching over. I'm also going to record it on our side too. We're going to be recording on both sides.
All right.
I mean, we can be switching over. All right, we are live. I'm also going to record it on our side. Hold on, I have to put my.
So should I watch the YouTube then?
Whichever way you want. I like watching the Zoom because I'm watching myself live. When we're watching it on YouTube, there might be a pause. And so I don't like.
Yeah.
So what I do on YouTube is I put the speaker on quiet, because if I don't, I get an echo.
Yeah, I experienced that. So I think it's just going to be the Zoom.
Yeah, that's what's best for both of us.
Yeah.
Let me get back here. Perfect. All right, Molly's here. Woo, Molly, yeah.
I won't be able to see the chat though, unfortunately.
Okay. Well, I'll keep up with the chat. Let's see. Live here.
Let me see if I can get a computer too so I can see the chat.
Andrew's here. I'll just whenever they chat in the chat, I'll just say it out loud. Okay.
All right.
Oops. Hold on, you guys. I'm still setting up here. Well, that's the difference about how it just goes directly to stream. I guess I could have gone. I don't know. One day I'll figure it out. All right, and I'll fix the thumbnail later, Pamela. So the thumbnail that's actually there that you'll see when we're offline, that will be updated later where I have our images on there. Okay.
YouTube.
Yeah, on
Screen.
YouTube. Mhm. It just has a standard one right now. All right, let's get this going here for me. Oh, I see. All right. All right, everyone. This is Cynthia Toet. You're a TV host for Gypsy's Toolbox, and I have a guest speaker today. Our guest speaker is Pamela GL. And yeah, we're going to be here awakening the conscious mind. We're going to be talking about that and bringing Pamela is from our chat. I brought her over because she's got some expertise and skills that I don't have, and I don't want it to be all about me, because to me we are all on equal playing fields, playing screens, and that's this way we're keeping it equal. And so Pamela, tell us just a little bit about yourself. Give us your name and what it is that you're doing on your business wise, just that you got over there on Instagram. Just, just give us an introduction.
I am a holistic.
Your screen froze. There we go with the Mercury. Is it Mercury?
Am I still frozen?
No, there you go. You're better now. Okay, now that she's unfrozen.
No. What was I saying? So my private practice is in Chicago. I don't know if you want me to talk about a little bit about my background.
Yeah, go
or
ahead.
what I do.
Give us your name, where your practice is, give us a little bit of background. This show is about you right now.
So I don't know how much you guys were able to hear before, because I can't see like the YouTube streaming. So as I was saying, my name is Pamela Guajardo-Lagos. I have a holistic practice in Chicago. It's kind of hard to tell now, like to identify what I'm doing. Like I do a lot of stuff. Like my background originally is biochemical engineer. So that's where I'm coming from. But my interests since then were like psychology, medicine, all of that kind of stuff. And I mentioned that because that keeps being my approach to things. So even with my clients, like I give them a little bit, it's not all like the energetic or more metaphysical approach to things, but also I kind of try to give a background of things from different perspectives, including psychology, including medicine, so like people can meet me or I can meet them where they're at more easily. And in terms of services, what I'm currently doing more is energy healing, but I'm starting to transition more into group sessions for like talking about empowering people and like awakening and self-awareness and healing practices, very similar to a little bit what you're doing in terms of the healing practices. But I'm also bringing a strong message of like focusing internally instead of externally. And that also involves looking for help, yes, externally, but also knowing that just as you highlight, we have incredible tools available inside of us. And most of the answers, if not all of the answers, are already within us. So I really enjoy like highlighting that in the people that are just kind of conditioned to look outside for everything, for answers, for solutions, for everything, really. So that's what I'm currently doing more.
So Pamela, how is it that you shifted what it is that you went to school for and all those things that you did to actually energy healing? How did that shift take place, or what woke you up to want to do energy healing?
So I think it's a combination. I think part of me always, well, as I said, I've always been since a kid, actually, just by the childhood trauma and all that kind of stuff. Like you are, as you know, I am a lot in my head, like, so it all like questions like the human condition and why people are the way they are, or all that kind of stuff has always been in my existence, like as a primary thing in my way of being and my head. And that started with self-reflection and a lot of questioning and a lot of analyzing of myself and others and all that kind of stuff. So as I said, in university, when the time came to choose something, any of these things would have been interesting for me, medicine or psychology or any of this kind of stuff. So that has remained along my journey. Then it was kind of in my 30s that, because of self things, like just like you cure your fibromyalgia, I had other type of issues. And at some point in visiting one of those doctors, she mentioned for the first time energy medicine. And the school that she came from was Barbara Brennan. You might be familiar with. And that was the first time that I ever heard about the term energy medicine. And I'm like, okay, that resonates. Like, this is not, like in the sense of like, I'm not now fully dependent on somebody else to figure out things that are more complex than just like very straightforward,
Right.
because
Right.
that kind of thing keeps you in a cycle, and it's like, and but you don't feel that you have many tools for you to take more leadership in your stuff, or to figure out, or nobody's gonna care about you, or nobody should care about you more than yourself. Nobody knows better than than yourself. So finally, when I came across this kind of stuff, it's like, oh, this is definitely something that I want to look into.
Nice.
And that got me started. But after that, like, it was opening a door, like, as you might be familiar by now, I mean, of course you are, like, there are so many different ways of doing energy medicine. So that got me started into learning about as much as I was able to, and I tried a million things.
So Andrew wrote behavioral mental health with a holistic approach.
Absolutely, that's very, very heavy. And that's for example, like, my type of coaching, it's, I don't even need to call it coaching, it's kind of, by now, because it adds the spiritual side of it, the more holistic approach, I do call it a little bit like spiritual guidance. But it just basically, it's trying to aim to help people that have started in what it's called now an awakening process. I'm not necessarily a fan of the term, because it has become associated with a bunch of things, that, and I just want it to be what it wants it to be. But anyway, like, people that have started going through these transitional moments in their lives, I want to be able to be there and bring light and some guidance into that process, because it can be it's a lot of things, including the phase where we go that it's very lonely, not only because you end up shedding a lot of things in your life, but also because you will find that you might not be able to talk to people about this, not only because you're not being understood, but because it's just also either more stressful than helpful, or any stuff like that, like, so I want to be able to be that person that helped them through their questions, through their awareness, through their self-empowerment, because it is a journey that many times can lead you to question yourself, which by default takes you to an unempowered space. It takes you like, what am I doing, and who am I, and all that kind of stuff. So
nice. So part of my beginning journey was like when I was 19, everybody could see my talents. They could see my skills. They wanted me to be a psychologist, right? And I said, oh, no, I'm not going to let them take my natural skills away, because I already could see that I had this natural ability, and I didn't want to be programmed by society. So I just wanted to throw it in.
Thank you for bringing that out, because, for example, so I stopped being an engineer around like 2008, or I stopped working actively in the field around that time. And I always, as I said, I was interested in the human condition, whether we're talking about the mind or the physical body, and I wanted to help, and all of those things combined. So I meant to go to school for finding more ways to channel that, to help people and to learn more. But I never wanted to marry to anything that was conventional, because I know that doesn't speak to me, so that was a major reason why I didn't go into later, like, either medical school or nursing or any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And we have CB, she joined us here in the chat too. So we have.
Oh, yeah. I finally can see the chat on the computer. Okay, awesome.
Nice. Okay, all right. And okay, so well, that's really nice to know the beginning of what it is you're doing and how you've gotten to where you are. And so what is it? Maybe you can tell us more in detail what it is that you do nowadays, now that you've gotten more into this energy healing. Maybe give us how is it that maybe you approach a client? What happens when you have the client in the room? Maybe, what does that consist of? when you're doing actual energy healing, can you kind of awaken other people that are here in the chat that may not even be familiar with energy healing?
Yeah, so it's very interesting because something that we were able to see in the clip that we made, like I was talking about being, and you being the instrument. And that's so true in the sense that, for example, I do other stuff, right? Like I also do massage therapy, and I just talk to friends, and I just whatever. And I just end up realizing that no matter what I'm doing, in whichever role I am, whether professional or not professional, I am being a certain thing. I'm embodying a certain energy where, like, inevitably, it's not that you're not trying to convert people to anything. It's just that you become a certain thing where, if you're being true to yourself, inevitably end up passing a certain energy, end up passing a certain message to others. So I find myself, even with massage therapy clients, just talking about all this kind of stuff. And it's interesting because you end up seeing that the more and more in time, people that are going through these things get to my table, and we end up talking about these things. And those are not clients that go for energy work. It's just that you can see how the universe starts bringing, like, okay, this is going to help in one way or another, So it's interesting to see that. Now, in terms of energy work, you also meet clients that are at all sorts of levels, clients that are just curious, or they've started kind of going through these first stages of what people call awakening, so they just feel that there is something that is changing and they don't know exactly what, and they're trying to look into different things. And this is kind of how they get to me. There are other people that have had like chronic illnesses for a long time, and they've tried a bunch of things and they come to me. So it depends on the person, and I try to meet them where they're at in the best place. I mean, in the best way that I can. So every session, just by that alone, it's very customized. Now, in terms of the energy healing, it's very linked together what we end up talking. Like all of the energy healing sessions end up having a little bit of guidance and coaching and kind of stuff like that too. But the way that I've been working has been shifting quite a bit in the last 2 years, I try to connect with the person.
Haven't we all? We all been shifting how we work.
Exactly. So, for example, before, more into the beginning, I would still work with spirit, but it was a little bit more like, okay, now I'm doing this, now I'm doing that, more intentional in that sense of like, now I'm doing clearing, now I'm removing cords, now I'm like, you know what I mean? And now, for example, the sessions have changed the format. I do the initial part, it's kind of that kind of stuff, like I connect with spirit, I cleanse the room, I connect with the client, and I do all that open and sacred space, set intentions. I do some clearing with violet flame, with white light. So you ground them. So you do all that protocol just to get the session in place. But every session reaches a point where I'm like, okay, guys, now you tell me. And they're completely surrendered to it.
We've had Divine Timing join us in the chat, and we've had AA join us in the chat. So we're here to say hello to them. And just to add on to your story, I used to be a massage therapist. It's like, that's what happens. We become a jack of all trades because we keep learning more and more and more, that it's not just one tool. It's not just one thing. We're going to pull in our toolbox. What is it that we need to pull from that this client needs, that this person needs? What do we need to utilize that's going to best serve them to allow them to grow to their next level or to ascend to their next level so they can find their own freedom within their own life, to
Right.
awaken their soul, to awaken their conscious mind, to have this beautiful life that's really meant for us to live. How can we waken us up?
And just like we were talking about in the clip, the perspective that I have is that all of the things that we've learned, whether is as energy healing modalities or all the other stuff, as I said, for me, like attachment style in psychology or like a bunch of other stuff, you know, like from different fields, end up becoming part of the database that we have. But the tool, as I said, we become the tool. So we acquire all this knowledge and experience, and it becomes what I consider our personal database. And then we process that data and we make it our own in one way. So by the time that we are able to provide a certain thing to somebody else, we are the tool. We are the one that basically integrated. We are the integrators, you know, which is part of our journey here. That's a major thing that we're meant to acknowledge: integration with everything, including the self, you know. So we acquire all these things, data, experiences, and then we integrate it. And then what we put out, it's us, basically.
We get to awaken their soul up to the tools that they have that they didn't even realize that they had. That just through our knowledge or through our walk of life, when we run across other people, how we're awakening them. We're awakening their conscious mind of something that they have that they didn't even know because it's been unconscious confirmation.
Yeah, that's one of the big things is that, and I put a lot of emphasis on this when I talk to my students, that I'm not like a guru type of thing, you know, like it's just unveiling things that we all have. None of it, it's like, it just, again, it's just that, it's just bringing awareness, you know, because like it's something, it's kind of one of the examples that I've used before is like, if we have a coin that we've always looked just from one side, and it's just flip the coin. You've always had that coin in your hand, but you've always just looked at one side of that coin. And there is this side and there is the other side, you know, like, and there is this other angle. And like, so it's nothing that necessarily it's being provided that wasn't there before. It's just for them to have the awareness of, have you looked in that corner? Have you looked in this other corner? Have you looked at this other way, you know? And that's super important because, again, one of the things that I do bring a lot of emphasis is to keep looking inwards, to stop looking outwards, you know? That doesn't mean that you can't get help. That doesn't mean, for example, like you can't get the aid of a light, right? To use a metaphor. But then you look inwards. So the light, it's external. You're asking for the help of the light to look internally, but you're still looking internally. I don't know if the metaphor it's understood, but so when you go for help, for example, I might bring that light to your awareness, but just so you can look inward.
So even though you're kind of answering some of the question that I'm going to have asked next, you know, once I ask a question, maybe it'll open it up to answer it a little differently. But how would you say what it is that you're doing actually helps awaken our conscious mind? I mean, because I believe that we've all been asleep. The unconscious mind is the mind that's not aware of the energy healing, you know, or the types of tools that we're talking about when we're talking about pulling these tools out of our toolbox that's our own. But how is it that I mean, even us talking about it is bringing it to the conscious mind, but I just want it to come from your words and not from mine, okay?
Well, that's the thing is that, and this is something that we all can do, that we all are doing in a way, you know, it's things that help awaken that consciousness is, first of all, knowing yourself and align with that, and then be unapologetically you and act accordingly to that, because that's what's shifting stuff. So if before we had shame and we self-censored, well, don't, like, let that shine through, that light shine through, because that's breaking the pattern. Every time that we break a pattern that we do, whether it's individual or collective, we're awakening consciousness. Every time that we give permission to ourselves to just be us, or every time that we take something out of our shadow, and we're like, no, this is just it's nothing to be ashamed of, it's nothing to be afraid of. Every time we do something different, whether we think differently or feel differently or act differently, that's waking up the consciousness, that's shifting every time that we do something different. And it's so interesting because it's not only that act on its own, it's transmuting things and it's shifting timelines, but also we're adding data to the Akashic records, so we're changing the collective, because it's like, as I said, whether individually or collectively, let's say me, okay, I've always done this way, and now I'm doing it this other way. That's new data that had never been done before, so those are ways that are very simple, and they might seem that are not meaningful, but actually those are huge.
Thank you for your input there. And then how is it that you would say, I know that you kind of already answered this in a whole nother way, but I just kind of want to bring it in the question format so we can reiterate that again, is how do you actually connect to source, or how do you connect to spirit, or how do you connect to this energy work that you actually do? Kind of, is there a step, is there a procedure, is there a conscious mind that you work on, or is it just something that you go into? Can you answer that?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to define lines, because I do this kind of stuff the whole day, meaning not necessarily working with clients, but because this is part of my journey too, I'm like, when you call it like I'm overthinking, yes, it might look like that too, right? But I'm on this wavelength 99% of the time, in self-reflection, in connection with spirit. So it's not that I'm in or out and I need to get in when I'm going into session. It's kind of like an ongoing thing in a way, but then specifically for a session, I do have like certain things that I do, but it's kind of like, by now it's like, okay, guys, you know what to do, like I do, as I said, open sacred space, and I set my intentions, and I intend to connect with certain energies. That's another thing, is that I have never worked, and this is super personal, and I encourage my students to also connect with what they feel called to do. I set the intention of connecting with specific energies. I don't connect, for example, with ancestors, which is something that some people choose to do. I don't choose to do that. So I set the intentions of like, I'm connecting with this, and also I set it free. Like you see, for example, there, I don't overthink it. Like I don't get trapped. And this is something that I encourage people to do too. I don't get trapped in how is this working? Or I need to know who am I connecting with, or I need to know their names. Or it's like, I just trust. I just set my energy in a certain state where I know I'm connecting with, even though I don't know, like I just trust that I'm connecting with the highest that's available for me at that time, because that's where my intention and my energy is. So for example, I don't need necessarily, even though I do include it, but I don't feel the need, for example, to ask for extra protection. That doesn't even come to mind, because the level where you're operating at, it's already there by default, like negative stuff and low vibrational stuff, it's just not allowed. It's just not a thing there.
Right.
But then after those steps, opening sacred space, as I said, I have added more conscious steps, which was brought into my awareness of connecting more intentionally with the client in a certain way. And I want to explain this shortly, but I think it's important because, for example, something that wasn't in my awareness and I got in a reading and it was very important for my practice is that you can be connecting with very high stuff, but ultimately, depending on where the client is at, that can be most likely the bottleneck. And that not only includes, obviously there is a part of them that it's open to it because they are coming to see you. But for example, one of the things that was brought to my awareness is like, if you telepathically or whatever, you made the agreement of like, meet me at the treatment room, at this ethereal space. And this person that was doing the reading for me described it as like your spiritual garden, like the place where you are at when you're doing healing is this beautiful complex garden. But a lot of your clients are not meeting you there. They're kind of outside in the hallway, just because they don't have the awareness that exists. For them, a garden looks like a city park. So when they find themselves there, it's like, okay, I'm in the garden. But so there is a certain gap there that we as the bridge should be aware that exists and try to close it. So now I added that step where subconsciously I invite them. So I connect with them physically first to telepathically connect with them and invite them into that space to close a little bit more that gap, because otherwise they don't receive the benefits that they could be receiving.
Okay, bye, Molly. Molly's got to go.
Bye.
And thank you so much for sharing that with us. I really appreciate that. How I really like that you said that, like, we have a choice to, like, rather if we want to connect with someone on the other side or not, or what our direction is. Like when I'm connecting only because I've been led and guided to connect, not because somebody has asked me to connect. I can't connect just because somebody asked me to. I have to do it because that's exactly what needs to be done for the next level of growth for that person that I'm actually in contact with. That's the one that's in 3D format, whoever I'm talking to at that moment. Right. Mm-hmm. So I love that.
And something that I wanted to add that I think it's important because it applies to other things. It's like, as I said, after I go through all these steps and I connect, I do reach the point of the session where I'm like, okay, guys, where do you want me to go? What do you want me to do? And that can look super different. And sometimes I find myself doing stuff that is like, okay, I guess this is what we're doing, so it depends what guys you're working with. Like, I think I mentioned this to you, like, there was a time when I started doing some motions that it looked like kind of Tai Chi or Qigong to me. I was like, I have never done this before. It's like,
right, you're actually going to action or you're going to motion. It's something that you have never done before, but it's whoever
right.
you're connecting with.
But you're allowing.
Right.
But another thing that I wanted to point out is that just how in the same way that you allowed and that you surrendered to like being guided, is that you also have boundaries. So for example, I've had sessions where, like, because that's the other thing, is that the spirits that you're connecting with, especially if they're very high realms, they don't necessarily might even know what it is to be human. So you need to set your boundaries too. So let's say that they're asking you to do a certain thing that for your vessel or for you as human, it doesn't feel okay. You can be like, no, this is the boundary. Like, I'm willing to serve and I'm willing to be of service and be a bridge, but we're not doing this, or we're not doing it this way. Just it becomes like too intense for you or something like that. So this is something that I like to encourage, that just because we are open, we can always say like, that's it. That's my boundary. We're open until we're not. Or as I said, be like, can we do this a different way? Because this way it's not working for me. And one of the reasons why I wanted to bring that up, it's because we can do that in our daily lives with anybody.
That's true. That's true. So that's pretty much all the questions I had. I do want to make sure that if there is anything else that you want to talk about or that you want to bring to clarity, that to share share something that you believe that would help the collective, something on a simple terms, because there may be people that's in the chat that don't, they're not at the level we are, but if we brought it down to simple terms, what would you want to share to the collective to help awaken their unconscious mind?
Well, first of all, embrace your uniqueness, because there is nobody anywhere in any timeline, and it will never be somebody like you. So as I said before, like for anything that we do, not only energy healing, but anything, we are the instrument. So find what your tone is, what instrument you are, or just be your own, like just find out who that is. And just in the same way that we appreciate rare things, unique things, well, realize that you are one of those. So like that on its own should take us to value ourselves. And another thing that I think it's important is that applies to my healing thing, is that I think we're all here to learn certain basic things like integration, balance, patience, strength, but we all might learn it in a different way. Because let's say that we need to learn balance. If I have too much red, I might need more blue. On the other hand, if you have too much blue, you might need more red. So, but the goal is to reach that balance, right? But it might look differently for all of us.
But it's okay to have a lot of pink, right?
Yes, totally. So where I wanted to go with that is that, for example, for me, one of the things that I allowed it to be a little bit of a blockage for me when I started as a healer, or I don't like that word because we're all healers, but was like, I can't feel energy. Up to this day, I can't, like how people usually feel energy, which is a more sensorial way, like heat, cold, pressure. I don't feel that. So that's not the way I'm being guided. It's not because this spot felt hotter than the other one and all that kind of stuff. And that threw me off for a very long time. And I want to talk about this because this applies to a lot of things. Things usually never come in the way that we expect them to come. And if we stay stuck in things coming in the way we expect, we might miss a bunch of things.
How I feel energy is through the emotions, because I can feel people's emotional beings, and that's the energy that I feel is the emotional self. Me
too, but when I'm in session, the way that I move, the way that I'm being guided, I'm just being guided. I'm just being like, so I don't feel anything. It's just that I allowed for them to kind of move my hands, like, where do you want me to go? So when I reach a certain spot, it feels like, okay, this feels right. Like, this feels like a yes. And if I put them in a different direction, it's like, this feels like a no. Like, so it's a kind of like a knowing. So anyway, like the point being that I think it's applicable for everybody in every case is like, be open to your unique way of experiencing things, and be open to those things not necessarily coming in the way that you might think they'll come, because spirit will push you. So for example, in my case, I'm a control freak. In my case, I want to know. In my case, I want proof, right? Spirit is not giving me any of those things. It's like, you got to trust completely. It's like, you're not going to give me a little bit of proof. No, nothing. You got to trust. So that's kind of what it's the takeoff out of what I'm explaining now. Just, it's going to show up in the ways that it's challenging you in the way that you're used to seeing things, or that you feel comfortable.
So Pamela, I want to thank you so much for coming here on the show and talking to us about how to awaken our conscious mind through this energy healing, and how your life has shifted, and how, you know, how it used to be, and how we are all quote unquote healers. But, you know, I mean, again, we don't like to use that word. We're operating from the energy. You know, we all have this. You know, it's not like I'm more special than you or you're more special than me. We are all on the same table. We are equal playing tunes. But what I want to ask, you know, just to make sure, just in case somebody's watching this video now or later on, if they have an interest to get a hold of you for any of your services, rather it's for the energy healing, or rather it's for maybe they're in the area and wanted to stop by your shop, or if they had some crystals that they wanted to be interested in, how would they contact you?
I can send you my website, or I mean, I don't know if it's a good idea to send my phone number through here, but
yeah. You know, I meant web. You know, do you have web stuff, or do you have an Instagram channel, or do you
Instagram and website? My healing practice is called Alchemical Spiral Healing Therapies. So you can go at www.alchemicalspiralhealing.com.
And I'll put that down in the description below once I get the description going. So I just wanted it to be spoken so people know that they can go look for it, so they can find the link for you to be able to find any of the services that you have available. And
with Instagram, which I think it's the easiest way to keep up with the new events and all that stuff, because I'm teaching Reiki and I'm having these monthly meetings to talk about self-development and self-awareness and all this stuff.
Are your monthly meetings online, or are they in person?
No, right now they are. I might do it online at some point, but right now they are just in person. But just so they can even get an idea of the type of topics that we talk about and all that kind of stuff. So Instagram, it's Alchemical Spiral.
I'll put that down there in the chat next to your name too, so they'll be able to get through to you on Instagram or your website to even learn more about you. And let's see, is there anything else that I'm leaving out or missing? I do want to thank you so much. Let me put this view on so we're both here. I do want to thank you so much for coming here on the show and just having this opportunity to talk about energy healing and awakening our unconscious mind up, and telling us about yourself. So, you know, people have choices to where to reach out to for, you know, it's not one-sided. It's we connect with different people at different levels. So I want to be able to put out, I want to, shout your name out.
Thank you. And I want to point out that I think it's really cool, because the way that we met, that we kind of were meant to meet, and we've been collaborating. So it's kind of an example of this round table setting that I was talking about. Like, we all bring to the table different things, and we end up complementing each other and creating something new, something synergetic, something that it's its own thing just by the combination of all of our energies, so it's beautiful.
Even Pamela going live here on YouTube was just something that just came out of the spurs. Like, she was trying to figure something out. And I was thinking that she needed to go live, but, I didn't really speak that into action. If I did, it was very lightly. And then I did a card reading. The card reading said to do this. And what was really neat, and then she had a meeting with the people that she was talking to. And it was talking about that we need to bring something into clarity and to be creative and about this spiritual journey and something about YouTube. And so then it all came together. I mean, so she needed to know me so we could put her on YouTube.
Yeah. And I think it's really cool, because remember when you asked me how, like, different ways of like awakening consciousness, and I said, just do something different, which is basically following our journey from the comfortable to the uncomfortable, the expansion, the south node to the north node, and all that kind of stuff. So I think doing something differently like this for me, which is definitely out of my comfort zone, it is something what I was telling you earlier. It's putting new data in the records. It's putting new data in the 3D. It's like, oh, she's never done this before. And she's very uncomfortable doing this. And yet she's doing it. Yeah. That is a major change, you know, like it's changing.
And myself, I'm used to having my show alone. So for me to bring you on the show, I felt like I needed to bring some type of structure in, you know, and that was bringing the questions out so I can actually more so market you at the same time as we're learning, and to actually bring clarity into the picture and being creative in the middle of the process, and keeping it on the spiritual level. So it's a spiritual journey. So opening up the mindset to others, so we're not keeping our minds captives or stuck in you know, this is the way it is supposed to be, this is the way it's supposed to be, that we're actually.
That's very important. That's very important. And thank you for bringing that up. I just want to mention this shortly. Like, for example, with all these things that I've been doing, the meetings and the teachings and all that stuff, I've been feeling very strongly, just like we did this here now, that more important than who's watching and who attends and all that, it's putting it out there. It's an energy thing that it's asking to be materialized. So just doing it, that's the major thing.
We're breaking limiting beliefs.
Exactly. Exactly. That's the major thing. Yes, it's beautiful if people can see it, if people attend meetings and all that stuff. But I feel that at a quantum level, at an energetic level, the most important thing is that we do it anyway. And I want to say this because I want to encourage anybody else to do it anyway, whatever that is. You know, just do it anyway. It's like, who cares? Right.
It is about opening up our mindset to bring out the awareness to others to what it is that we don't know, or what it is we're afraid of, and what is that fear? What is that fear factor?
Exactly. And for people, for example, that for me, it's hard. That this is one of the beauties, you know, like for me, it's like, well, I can do it this way and that way and that way. And that's how it gets delayed. And you were like, let's just be kind of boom, boom, boom. Just do it.
Yeah, because see, Pamela, she's this type, she's structured. It's got to go this way. It's got to go this way. I go, no, don't put too much thought into it. Let's just do it, because otherwise we would let it go on, and the longer we let it go on, it's going to drop off the boat. You know, that's
something that happens to me. So that's what I mean, is that you were brought into my reality to like add that piece that it's weak.
I said, jump, baby, jump. Let's do it. People waiting. I go, the card said now. Let's do it.
Exactly. So it's beautiful how like the universe works in that sense. It's like, okay, you're kind of missing that little bit. Let's bring Miss Gypsy to like compliment that part. You know, it's like, then just do it.
We gotta jump. We gotta do this.
It's important that we learn to listen, because at the same time, I am like, okay, I know what you're doing, universe.
Well, the only reason why I know how to use that method is I've taken a lot of courses, and I've had a lot of ideas, but when I took the TV hosting program, as soon as the TV hosting program was over, I started this show. Within 10 days, I waited nothing. I said, I'm doing it, because if I waited, it wouldn't happen. Now I've been here almost 2 years because I jumped into position. I said, no way, I'm not going to just learn this and put it on the back burner. I'm going to do something with it. And that's one of my weaknesses. So that I'm learning, and like I'm seeing the cues, like there is a reason why you were brought into my reality, and I'm like, okay, I'm taking it. You know, I know that it's a help from the universe to be like, okay, you can just put it out there. I wasn't gonna let you say no anyhow. I know. And neither does the universe, by the way, because it's like, well, you don't do this, you're not gonna get this other stuff. All right, hold on there, Pamela. I am going to take us off YouTube. So I want to tell everyone, thank you so much for coming and joining us. We've had a total of 6, 7 people the whole time. We have had at least, let's see, we've had 14 viewers. I really, really thank you for coming in. Go ahead and share this content out to other people. And until next time, you beautiful souls, and you'll see me tomorrow night, you know, where we're going there. We're going to do your hidden love story. We got to continue on with that love story, you know, that hidden love that steeps down inside of ourselves. So I'll see you guys later. And